Hello, welcome to the Bush Creek East Wildfire Community Meeting for Friday, September 1st, 2023. We're recording at 12 noon Pacific time. I'm Erick Thompson. We are joining you from the traditional unceded territories of the Secwepemcu, Syilx, Okanagan, Skwlāx, and Ktunaxa Nation. Thank you for joining us. I'm an information officer with the Columbia Shuswap Regional District Emergency Operations Center, and here with me is Tracy Hughes. Tracy is also an information officer. Her day job is the communications coordinator with the CSRD. Derek Sutherland is here as well. Derek is the CSRD Emergency Operations Center Director, also the team leader for protective services. We have some CSRD directors joining us. We know for sure that we have Kevin Flynn here. Kevin, of course, is the chair, and he'll be monitoring this meeting closely along with Area F Director Jay Simpson. And we've heard from a few different Indigenous communities, including the lands manager with the Skwlāx. I'll let you say that. Why don't you say that one?
Skwlāx to Secwepemcu.
Excellent. Adrian Siebert, lands manager. I've been practicing that, but not enough. And so we will have some updates from the people that I've just mentioned. We'll also hear in just a moment from Mike McCulley. Mike is an information officer with BC Wildfire Service. In fact, he's also a liaison, and he has been with the service for quite a long time and will give us an update on the wildfire. We'll talk about some other issues related to the fire. So just to give you a very quick rundown of what the plan is, and then we'll get right to the details. So we have the BC Wildfire update in just a moment. We're also going to talk about evacuation alerts and orders and the current status, re-entry and recovery. We'll hear from Tracy about emergency support services and the resiliency center that's being set up, and also in updates, as I mentioned, from Indigenous communities. And we will have time for question and answer. And that's really what we want to do here, is hear from people. We'll have details on that, how you can get involved. But first of all, let's bring Derek in. Now, Derek, there is a lot of information. It's fast moving, but a couple of things that jump to mind is the barge. The Whitehead boat launch is being used for the barge, and that is closed to the public. Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So we've had to close access to the boating public to allow for the barge to load and unload its passengers. And that is closed during the day until 5 o'clock. So after 5 o'clock, the boat launch reopens for public loading and unloading of boats. We would like to ask people to confirm their reservation on the barge. It has gotten very, very full, and people are showing up and are being disappointed when they're being turned away because the reservation list is full. So please do visit our website and make a reservation on that barge.
Excellent. Before we go too far, I'd like to talk about mission, vision, and values. This is something that we've spoken about here in the Emergency Operations Center: community, teamwork, professionalism, integrity, safety, and leadership. They're words, but they have deep meaning, especially for the crew that you're working with.
Absolutely. So we've been speaking about those values in the Operations Center as we've been managing this emergency and guiding our decision making through this emergency. Like, these aren't just words to us. We live and breathe these concepts, and our firefighters in the field helped create these values, and they really truly believe in them. Our firefighters in the field are personnel in the Emergency Operations Center. They don't have to be here. They have regular duties that they should be doing, they could be doing. They're choosing to help out in the Emergency Operations Center. They're choosing to be firefighters in their communities. These are volunteer firefighters, and they have other commitments and other jobs that they need to be doing as well. But this is important. They're the right people to do this work. They recognize that it's meaningful work and it needs to be done, and their community needs them. That goes for our EOC personnel and our firefighters in the community. So couldn't be prouder of the people that we have working here.
13 CSRD fire departments, all represented in Area F, and some long hours. But I think this is an opportunity to mention that we're out of an EOC, you get information and you get a lot of moving parts. But at the end of the day, it's about people. And I think that's the most important thing we can say here. People often think, well, you're government, you're telling us stuff we need to know or we want us to know, but it's not about that right now. This is a part where we're going into one of the most difficult phases where people have lost homes, property's been damaged. The local government is required to help people and make them aware of what's available, but get them through a difficult time. That's going to be months and even years.
Yeah, absolutely. We're planning on this being a 3 to 5 year process, and we're not going away anytime soon. We're not going to be finished this work until the last person is helped. And the volunteers that are fighting fire out there are truly believe in their obligation to the community and feel that deeply. And the people in our emergency operations center know that they have the knowledge and the expertise to truly help, and they're finding a lot of meaning in that work.
I wanted you to talk a little bit about potentially touring the sites and properties affected, but I just want to quickly say to Tracy, your job is going to be key over the next while as you communicate with people, but it's also two ways. So people phoning and asking you questions or asking for the information they need if they feel they're not getting it. That will be key to your job as well.
Absolutely. And that's where the phone number behind us here, the 250-833-3350. We want to be hearing from you. We want to be responding to you in order for us to do the best job we can and fulfill all the needs that are out there. We need to know about them. So we're really encouraging people to interact with us directly and reach out. As Derek pointed out, everybody in here is doing this work. They're trying to do it to the peak of their ability because we know how important this is, because we know how important you all are to us. You're our neighbors, you're our friends, you're in our communities. So we really, really want to stress, reach out to us.
Mike McCulley standing by with BC Wildfire Service. But first of all, Derek, plans right now are being worked out to try and get people back to see their property before the evacuation order is lifted. What are some of the challenges you're facing?
Yeah, so we recognize that there's a need for people who been deeply affected by this tragedy to see their homes. It's part of the healing process. It's part of the closure. It's part of the process to move on, and that needs to be done before we can lift the orders in the area. And the team is working really, really hard on trying to make that work. It's logistically incredibly challenging. It's still an active wildfire area. There are danger tree issues out there. There's BC hydro issues out there. So we're looking at bringing people in on a smaller bus and coordinating those kind of site visits for those people that want to need them.
Derek, I don't live in this community. I've come here to help because I was asked to help. I know Tracy is a friend. There's a lot going on. There are teams working behind the scenes, including Tim, who you've seen on these briefings. The people who are here to provide actual information. I've just noticed a comment on YouTube. And to me, that's troubling when people are saying that they think what we're providing is just, I don't know what they're referencing, but I want to set the tone that this meeting is to provide as much information as actually possible. That's what we're here for. And we're here as well because these people live in this community and the other people working behind the scenes. The firefighters who are here visiting to help out could be at home, but they're here to fight the fire. And then the local fire departments, of course, are saving their communities and doing the work they have to do. That does not discount at all the work of people who live in the community who are trying to protect their property as well. But it's about safety and it's about the safety of people. So we're going to get to some phone calls in a few minutes. And I think it's very important that we just set some operating values for that because it is a family-friendly meeting. Certainly, there's a lot of emotion. There is no doubt about that. And I would never discount emotion. I've not lost a house in an emergency, so I cannot relate to what you're feeling, but I can understand there's a lot of pain. The questions, the call-in portion will be a chance to ask questions and get information, any information that's available. We ask you to respectfully share your thoughts about the wildfire and ask your questions about that wildfire itself and questions specific to your family and what it means for you and how you can get home. Several agencies are supporting the response and recovery efforts. They've joined the meeting as well. This community meeting is a step toward recovery, and I believe that's an important point. It's not an open mic session. There will be time to have those conversations and would like to take some of those offline. This is a chance for everyone to get information. Everyone will have an equal opportunity to speak, certainly as time permits. And the idea is as soon as we get to the phone calls, we'll stay on the air as long as we can. We're focusing on local government level response. This is not an inquiry, and we do appreciate your cooperation on all of that. And we will be getting to those calls in just a moment. Should mention as well, we have YouTube up, as I mentioned, and if you'd like to ask a question in there, we'll try to get to that but also if you want to log into Zoom, that's where you can raise your hand and ask your question. But let's go right now. Oh, we ask you if you can keep your questions short if you can, just so we can get as many voices in. Mike McCulley is with the BC Wildfire Service. And Mike, as I mentioned, is an information officer, but he does a lot with BC Wildfire, including working as a liaison. Mike, you spent a lot of time in the field and you've seen some serious disruption. You've seen some community members coming together to do their part. And I want to ask you about the wildfire, the latest conditions, but if you can just start with just giving us a sense of what you've seen in the field.
Hi, sure. Thanks for having me again. It's Mike McCulley with the BC Wildfire Service. I've been assigned to this incident as the information and liaison officer, and certainly, you know, the impacts in there are not light. Anytime you have a disaster like this that comes through the area, it's going to be significant. And my heart goes out to the community. I've been fortunate enough to be able to go into there and talk to residents, and I can't thank them enough for all the support and the opportunity they've given us to just interact a little bit and listen and learn and talk and help each other understand what's going on. But certainly it is not a light footprint in there, and it's going to take some significant time for recovery. And that's going to be a major challenge going forward.
Mike, I'm going to ask just to confirm that you do have your camera on, and I can see you now. And I'll ask our operator. We have Jen behind the scenes helping with this Zoom and YouTube broadcast. And I just wanted to confirm that there we go. That when you're speaking, if we could bring your image up so people can see who you are. And I know you're going to give us an update on this wildfire, followed by a quick look at the map as well.
Yeah, certainly. So I will share my screen right now. We'll go through the fire update, and then I will just close off. I just have to share here. Let me know when you can see, please, Eric.
Yeah, we can see the map now, Mike. Thank you.
Okay, so update for today is relatively calm and not a lot of change on our fire for several days now. We, as everybody knows, we had a predicted wind event a few days ago that we were prepped and ready for. The winds were not as significant as we thought, and we did take significant rain on some portions of our fire, well over 10 millimeters. There's some challenges that come with that for our crews. The roads get a little slick, and some of the guard line that we've been building gets challenging to travel on, but we have been able to, for the most part, keep our crews out on the fire. This fire remains around 43,000 hectares in size, a little bit of growth down by Sorrento that I'll talk about in a bit. And we have somewhere around 330 ground crews on this fire, around 80 support staff, 18 helicopters that we're using between this fire and the Rossmore Lake fire, which is also part of the complex that my incident management team is managing. So that's sort of the general numbers for the fire. I also wanted to highlight the heavy equipment contingent. It bounces between 70 and 80 right now, depending on what we're doing on each given day. I want to remind everybody that that heavy equipment is not ours. We don't own it. It's all supplied by local contractors or contractors from near. And they become a massive part of our effort, tied right in on the front lines of our fire. And I think people often, undervalue or not undervalue, but underappreciate the sort of work that's done by our equipment operators. We appreciate them. They're tied right in with our firefighters, and that's such an important part of our tactics that we use to fight these large fires. So I think, we do have crews spread out through the fire. We've been doing some scanning in the sort of southern flank area, Scotch Creek, Lee Creek area. We won't be scanning again tonight. That's now stopped for a little while, but not a lot of major activity on this fire. We have our crews again working up from, up above the Magna Bay area. They're now tied in with some of the local contractors that were working guard line on the northeastern tip of this fire. And I guess the most significant growth that we've seen over the last several days is down just above Sorrento. And you can see it on the map here. We have been holding this fire for about a week or more with heavy helicopter bucketing up in this steeper ground that's not as extremely workable for us. And then a few nights ago, as most people will know, this fire became quite visible. And during the little bit of wind that we did have, it moved down the hill significantly and came very close to some of these properties. Our crews, in combination with the local fire department, worked really hard to defend this area, and we haven't seen a bunch of new growth since that time. But when you're looking at the perimeter like this and you can see the jagged edges, it basically shows you that this fire was, again, finding the fuel that it likes under the conditions that existed. So liking the warmer, drier winds, and obviously moving downhill into the evenings. That's why this fire became fairly visible at night. But this is really the major portion of growth that we've seen over the last week. Other than that, this fire has held in place for the most part. We are continuing to work our effort on guard line around many sections of this fire. It's split into 4 different divisions, and again, over 330 ground crew on the fire at this time, including a good contingent of local firefighters that I can't thank enough for coming to the table and coming in and helping us, looking at what we're doing, tagging in with our BC Wildfire Service crews, getting their briefings in the morning, and just really supporting us. I'm always keen to see that happen, and we're grateful for it. They provide a lot of local knowledge and understanding of what's going on, and in fact are representing their community extremely well. So a strong partnership going on there, and that's sort of the state of affairs for this fire. Again, just leave by saying thank you very much to this community for allowing me to be here and for allowing me to interact with you in support of this effort. We all have the same goal, and that's to get this fire under control, and we're working very hard on that. In terms of the risk of fire, as it parlays to our recommendations around orders and alerts, I'll just say that we are reevaluating that a lot right now. We're looking at that hour by hour. I know our command staff, including myself, we're talking to our operational folks extensively right now. And as soon as we can, as soon as we feel comfortable, we'll be, speaking with the CSRD about that risk and hopefully helping to firm things up in that push to move forward and get people back home. Having said that, there are massive challenges out there yet. There are many roads that still need to have danger trees removed. I watched lots of trees coming down yesterday with very little wind. It's the drought causes the roots to burn out in ways that aren't common, in a really significant way. So still many dangers out within this area. Still lots of work for BC Hydro to do, and it's going to take some time here for recovery. And so my thoughts will be with you all as you move forward. And I will leave it at that, Eric, and pass it back to you.
Thank you very much, Mike. I know the map that you're showing us is where the fire has burned. We did have a question on YouTube about the current state of the fire, where that fire is burning. Is that information available somewhere? And is there anything you can say about that for people watching?
The fire's burning within the perimeter. There's always lots of fuel inside of that perimeter that's burning off. There's no real active head of the fire. Again, the biggest portion that's probably most active and most visible is just above the Sorrento area, but on all flanks, it's fairly quiet fire behavior due to the rain that we've had. So lots of smoking, lots of hot spots. We're seeing, some open flame, some ground fire, a little bit of candling every now and then, but really no big front or head of the fire in any specific area. And that's great news. I think what people need to understand is within that polygon that I showed, it's not just a blackened wasteland. There are areas that burn at different intensities. There's different fuel types in there that react in a different way to the wildfire. So it all looks quite different. And there will be large pockets of unburned fuel within that area. If you see smoke and flame in the interior of the fire, when the conditions aren't so windy and a little bit damper and the indices are down, that's not bad that the fire is burning off some of that fuel, so that if the winds do pick up, there's less opportunity for intensity to climb and for a head to be created and a head fire to start running, or for ember showers to start spotting. So no real specific area that the fire is burning in or has a big head. Again, pretty visible above Sorrento, but even that, it's a fairly broken front. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you, Mike. One more question on the wildfire itself, and then I think we'll move on and we'll ask you to stand by. I know you do have to leave prior to 1 o'clock. You have another call with CNRD for their wildfire there, and then I know you'll hopefully get some time off, and we do appreciate you taking the time as always with these briefings. One of the questions people often ask is about aerial support, and there are a number of factors I know that go into that. Is there anything you can say about that? The question was related to aerial support yesterday over Sorrento, and there are a number of reasons I know, but is there anything you can say about that?
Yeah, I think if the question is specific to our bucket, we call them bucket ships. So those large helicopters that you're seeing, and those are big ones. Those are big heavies that are able to move a lot of water. We've been running them on that flank above Sorrento for, well over a week, just really trying to cool and hold that fire. Those efforts don't put the fire out. No aircraft put fire out. Fire's put out by ground crews who go in after the aircraft, cool the fuels, cool the fire down. And that's what's going on there. And again, we'll also use it as a tactic to hold and slow fire until either the weather changes or the fire comes into more operable ground that we can work. So in terms of the helicopters, that's what you're seeing. I have had questions this week about why aren't we running air tankers or skimmers or scoopers on the fire? And frankly, it's been very cloudy, very smoky, and just not safe to do so. Also, if we're holding the fire with bucket chips as best we can, those tankers are probably well used in other places. So if we have objectives to run, we'll do it. Air tankers and skimmers are not only used during initial attack, they're used often as an as a tactic to cool and slow fire so crews can get in. We're always looking to use them if we can, but for now, those bucket chips that you're seeing are having the effect we need.
Excellent. I'll remind everyone watching, including the media, that we will have time for questions coming up shortly. We want to get as much information out as possible first, hopefully answer some of those questions, but we will get to questions shortly. I want to go over to Erick Sutherland now. And Erick, let's be honest here. Some of the questions that have come in on YouTube are about starving people out. Now, we've said it many times, but if someone is in an area that is under an evacuation order, they shouldn't be in that area. So there's no intent to make life difficult for them. If someone's in an area like Anglemont that is not on order, but the access is cut off because of an order, the barge has been running nonstop. Anything you can tell us on that part of it?
Yeah, so no, we've been working really, really hard to get those areas supplied that are difficult to access because of the closure in the areas of the order. So Anglemont and St. Ives are not on order. However, it's hard to get supplies to them because Skwlāx Anglemont Road is shut down for firefighting efforts and for safety reasons. So we've had this barge established. Staff are coming up with creative solutions. We're getting boats over with medication, that sort of thing. And we've opened up that road on the North Fork to come in through Seymour Arm. Although it is long and it is a rough road, we have asked Forestry to put a grader on it, and they've cleaned it up quite a bit for us and made it more passable.
Now, I know the CSRD board of directors, people working at the elected official level, are supportive of speeding up this process as quick as possible of getting people back into their homes in areas under evacuation order. And that is the plan with staff as well. And Mike alluded to it, that it's being looked at literally by the hour, the current conditions of the fire and how you can get people back in.
Yeah, the board and our policy group, which is comprised of members of the board and our staff, are all aligned that nobody wants to keep people out of their homes longer than they need to be. And we're working very, very hard to get people in. If we can let one area in, it takes a lot off of our plate in the EOC and allows us to concentrate on those other areas and focus our efforts on those.
You've had a chance to see firsthand a couple different times some of the damage, and I think you've been a bit surprised by what you've seen.
Yeah, the devastation is I just can't believe what's out there, how hot this fire ran and how big the track of this fire is, how much area it covered and how much devastation to people's homes and livelihoods that this had. It's just astounding. And we're committed to helping residents through this process of recovery.
So at this point, the idea of getting people in to look at property that has been damaged or destroyed is still a work in progress. But I want to suggest, if I can, that hearing from people on what they would like, whether they want to get on a bus or they want to do something else, that information will certainly help with your plans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it absolutely will. And we have phone numbers for about half of the properties that were destroyed, and we're looking to the other people. If you think your home has been damaged by this fire, to get in touch with us. If somebody hasn't already been in touch, please do call in, and we want to hear from you. And we can go to our mapping. We have a really good sense of what homes have been destroyed, what homes have been damaged, and what homes are okay.
Okay, and I would like to talk for a moment about re-entry. And just a reminder that Tracy Hughes will be talking about emergency support services, another vital part of this, and of course, recovery efforts. But for re-entry, any new information will be posted on CSRD channels. And of course, you can always phone in at any time, but you'll see that posted on the website and social media channels. Re-entry packages are available. They'll be posted online. We've heard from BC Hydro, Telus, Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure, and their partners. They're working to restore services. We know from Telus that they have a dedicated customer support team that's been formed, and I'll give you that number. It's 1-855-889-8888. 889-7233. That's for Telus, 1-855-889-7233. Derek, I want to ask you about getting rid of food and appliances, but first, BC Hydro and the other crews are working hard, but we've heard so much from BC Hydro during those morning briefings that take place about what they're up against, and they are working long hours. Anybody you talk to is pretty impressed with what's gone on in the field.
Absolutely. It's incredible how they've mobilized crews from across the province to converge on our area to get power back. It is still a gargantuan task. And in some cases, we're talking weeks before power is restored, but it is not for lack of trying. They are working so hard to get out there and get it done. They are looking as haggard as we are in the EOC and as the firefighters are out in the field. We can tell that they're really taking this seriously and they are feeling the same obligation to the community as we are.
Okay, can we talk a bit about appliance disposal? So if you have a fridge or a freezer and if for whatever reason you do need to dispose of it, Sorrento, Anglemont, and St. Ives, there's disposal available for those residents?
Yeah, so residents in Sorrento, we're asking them to take their appliances or arrange for their appliances to be taken to the Skwlāx transfer station or the Salmon Arm landfill. And for residents of Anglemont and St. Ives, we've set up a collection area at the Ross Creek store that'll be collected once per day out of that location.
Okay, and a really important reminder to check with your insurance provider before discarding that appliance.
That's right. So if you may be insured, you may be entitled to receive compensation for any damaged appliances due to spoiled food.
Okay, and we're going to go to Tracy in just a moment, but residents of Lee Creek, Scotch Creek, Celista, and Magna Bay will receive instructions when that evacuation order is rescinded on what they can do. Tracy?
I just wanted to bring up as well, we are working to assist people who may have challenges with moving these fridges and freezers. I know I would not be moving a fridge myself. If you want to reach out to the EOC, we can connect you with some organizations who we're working with to help with that movement of those fridges and freezers.
Derek, finally on your end of it, before we go to Tracy on ESS, the barge, people might not know, but the barge is taking a lot of different items to people who are cut off, people in the alert area, including medication.
Yeah, absolutely. And everything from basic medication to dialysis machines to groceries to you name it, fuel, it's going across on this barge. And which is why it's really important for people to make reservations on this because people are showing up and are upset when they can't just get on. But there is a priority system to get those much needed supplies over to the areas that are cut off. And then there is a system to get people a booked spot on that barge.
Okay, a reminder coming up in about 10 minutes, we'll get to phone calls through our Zoom system. If you're logged in through Zoom, we have comments coming in through YouTube. We'll get to some of those as quickly as possible as well. I just wanted to mention on the barge, I've been working in the Emergency Operations Center here now for the past several days. The people last out of the building and much later than the rest of us are people working on logistics with the barge, the planning section. It's a big job and they're calling people individually to book those appointments and reservations.
Absolutely. People are getting a real personal touch and our staff are just working so hard to make this happen. Please go gentle on them. They are incredibly dedicated and doing a really good job of trying to get this stuff over there. Please do fill out that online form. And that's what gets you that personal phone call from people to book your spot on that barge.
Okay, we have Adrian Siebert standing by as well. She's the lands manager with Skwlāx, and we'll talk to her in a moment. But Tracy, Emergency Support Services, the new reception center is now set up at Fairfield Inn.
That's right, the Fairfield Inn and Suites. It's at 790 16th Street Northeast in Salmon Arm, open daily from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And again, that phone number is 250-833-3360. We can't say enough about our emergency support services volunteers. And I stress that word volunteers. As we've pointed out, there's a lot of us who are working long hours and hard work, but we do get paid. And we have a huge contingent in this community of volunteers who have mobilized, including our emergency support service volunteers. And this is not easy work. It's emotionally draining work. but they do it because they care. They do it because they want to help people at some of the worst times in their lives. And so real shout out to them. A couple of quick points for people who have been evacuated and are getting emergency support services. Check your renewal dates. It's very important that you check in with the emergency support services before these supports run out. So before they expire, please go ahead and reach out.
I'm going to bring Derek in. Derek, you had a point to mention?
Yeah, just building on Tracy's comments about our ESS volunteers. These are what's called public safety lifeline volunteers. And there's 5 groups of public safety lifeline volunteers, and none of those volunteers are eligible for compensation. So these volunteers are pure volunteers. They don't get a paycheck on every other Friday. They do it because they really, really care and want to help people in their time of need, and really find value and meaning in that work also. So we have a group of about 70 ESS volunteers, and I can't say enough about them. I just appreciate what they do so much.
I spoke with a resident this morning who said nothing but good things to say about all the work that's been done on the emergency support services front. Tracy, donations.
Yes, so at the Emergency Support Services Center, they are accepting donations of gift cards, and that is a specific need for gift cards that would go directly to evacuees. Please do not bring a load of pet food or any kind of clothing to the Emergency Support Center at the Fairfield Inn. They simply do not have the capacity to take that. But we do have a donation line where we can hook people up with appropriate places to go and to take things. 250-833-3396 is that number. And again, those connections can be made. Financial donations are also most welcome, and those are being handled locally through the Salmon Arm Savings and Credit Union. If you go to their website at www.sascu.com, you can find out all the information about donations for local evacuees.
Derek, can you talk about the Resiliency Center? The Resiliency Center is intended to provide that support as this recovery continues on, and we're in the early stages, but it'll be set up at the reception center.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll also be set up at the Fairfield. And what the Resiliency Center is designed to do is to help people get started in the rebuilding process. If you've lost your driver's license or your healthcare card, you'll have somebody from Service BC there to help you get a new driver's license or health card. If you've lost your passport in the fire, there'll be somebody there from the federal government to help you get a new passport. If you're uninsured and you need help rebuilding, there will be non-governmental organizations there that specialize in the rebuilding process. If you've lost your insurance documents or not sure if you're insured, there'll be somebody from the insurance bureau there to go through the back end to see if there are, if that property is insured. So the Resiliency Center is going to be a hub of supports for those people that have lost homes or have damaged properties, and it's there to help people through that recovery process and make it just a little bit easier and take a little bit of burden off of people.
I should just jump in here for a second and say that Resiliency Center is also going to be providing emotional supports. There's going to be people there looking out for your well-being, and there with empathy, with training, because we understand that this is a devastating situation, and you're going to go through a whole range of emotions, and we want people to reach out to each other for support and for some professional supports. They will be available at that Resiliency Center.
Okay, thank you. Adrian Siebert is the lands manager with Skwlāx to Secwepemcu, and she is on the line. We'll just make sure we can bring her in, and then we'll get to some calls from other members, residents, and also the media. And I know we have a few media members who are probably waiting to talk to us, but we want to bring in Adrian, and I just want to confirm that you are there, Adrian, and that you are able to provide us with an update from your community. Go ahead, please.
Hey, so can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can. Thank you, Adrian.
All right, so just an update from our end. So I'm the lands officer with Skwlāx to Secwepemcu, and just if there's any issues with my mic or sound, we are all working remotely. We do have a call center for any members or leaseholders or anyone needing, assistance. So we do have a call center to put that out there. At this time, especially, I would like everyone to be especially patient, right? We're all, eager to get back to our properties. We're all eager to, get back to our land, obviously. But at this time, we're really asking for patience because, we're obviously working remotely. Our team is working, really hard trying to, get things back up and running. Everyone's had, in some way or another had something devastating happen to them. So please be patient with us. If you need some help or need some questions answered, we have our call center. Anything lands related, you're free to email me as well. Especially if it's lands related, feel free to email me at asiebert@lslb.ca. If it's especially a longer question, that way you can just shoot me off an email. I can reply back to you, and then hopefully we can keep this this meeting short and efficient as possible. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know.
Sorry about that. We were muted. My fault. I just want to confirm your email address, that it is Siebert, SIEBERT @lslb.ca.
Yeah, that's right. So for any lands related questions, feel free to email me.
Okay. Thank you very much for the update. At this point, we are going to go to some questions now, and we'll include the media in there when we get an opportunity. But I want to mention again, if I can, the operating values for this. It's a family-friendly meeting. So we appreciate your respecting that for this community meeting. It's a chance to ask questions, get some more information. Please respectfully share your question, your thoughts on the wildfire, but really what we're looking for is a short question so we can get as many people in to this session as possible and answer as many questions as we can. It's not an open mic session. There will be many opportunities to have these conversations. And I know that, coming from someone working with the government, that's probably not what you want to hear, but this is a community meeting, and community meetings always allow people to ask questions so they can get the information they need for their community and for their family. And it's not an inquiry. So we do appreciate your respecting that. So we've got some questions, we've got some hands up, and going with the order that I've seen them here, I'm going to start with the screen name of Kicker, and we'll ask Jen, who's working behind the scenes, to bring that question up. And Jen, I'll just remind you, if you can, is while we're answering questions, maybe you can bring up the alert and order map, which shows the latest information similar to the map that's behind us. And Kicker, go ahead, please.
Hi, this is Tracy from the North Shuswap Kicker. One of the questions I have at the moment is, you mentioned earlier that it was challenging to bring supplies across the lake and the barge gets reserved quite quickly. Why not allow the locals who have already shown their willingness to use their boats and lots of supplies that they've coordinated to help bring those supplies across the lake?
So thanks, Tracy. Appreciate the question. We're finding official ways of doing this stuff, and it seems to be working well. During the evacuations, locals were engaged to help with getting people out and getting the supplies over on the barge. Seems to be working effectively and working well to the point now where it's getting very popular. So we're having to manage that popularity, but that's a new development. So so far we feel like it's working well.
Okay, we want to get as many questions in as we can. So the next one is from Castanet. Let's go to Castanet, and then hopefully we can hear from some members of the community as well. Go ahead, please.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thanks.
Hey, it's Tim Petrick from Castanet. My question is, maybe Mike will be able to answer this. How many of the 330 ground crew are the North Shuswap locals that we're hearing about? I haven't heard a number on that.
It's a good question. It kind of varies from day to day. One of the things that was really important to the local contingent when we were working through this process was that they had some flexibility. You know, they have things going on. They have their own sort of priorities and issues. So not trying to skirt the question. It ranges from anywhere from 10 to 30 on any given day. That's just the ground crews. The equipment crews that are working for us, the locals, there's a larger contingent. I don't have that number. Again, we have 75 pieces or so of iron out there. Most of those would be local or from the near area, but it ranges from 10 to 30 on any given day from the ground crews. And again, that's just hard to track because we have given them the purview to sort of come and go as they can. We're glad to have them for any days they can take part. We have some that come back every day, and someday there's people that sort of come and go from one day to the next. So the numbers have been climbing slowly. We're really happy with them out there, and anything we can get is great. And 30 is not an insignificant number. That's a really good resource and a large number of people to help us out there. So again, anywhere from 10 to 30 on any given day.
Thank you, Mike. And just a reminder, Mike will be leaving us just before 1 o'clock. He has another call with TNRD, and lots of questions coming in on YouTube. And I see one here, and it's a general question people have asked about timelines of getting back into their property. This one was about Scotch Creek and some areas, people are wondering about hydro. You can check the BC Hydro outage map. That'll give you the latest information. Timelines are difficult there, but as far as timelines, Derek, getting back into property, it's really literally being looked at by the hour.
Absolutely. So it's something that we're constantly talking about in the EOC. We're constantly preparing for. Once the threat of wildfire is passed, we do have to assess the area for other threats such as danger trees, power lines, any environmental contaminations that may be causing issues. So we are working with the provincial authorities to try and determine that if the areas are actually safe. We're working with the Ministry of Highways to make sure that the highways are safe, so that when we lift the orders on the area, people can go home safely.
If I may for a second, I just really want to point out that I was talking with sort of a burly guy that goes to my gym, and he's like, oh, why can't we go back? Really, there's a perspective that safety means safety for everyone here. So that means safety for the 5-year-old whose mother might be distracted, doing some cleaning and zips out of the house into that area. It also means safety for someone who may have a walker or maybe mobility challenged. So, it's easy to think that, what safety might mean to you. We really have to focus on what safety means to every single person that goes back into those areas, because everyone's life is equally as important.
All right, let's get as many calls in as we can now. Doug Andrew has been waiting patiently along with a bunch of other people. So Doug, if you can go ahead with your question, please. And thank you for joining us. We'll just ask you to unmute your mic if you can, please, Doug, and then we'll get your call in right away. And next up, we'll hear from Bill Holtby. But right now we're going to ask Doug if he can unmute his microphone. And while Doug is trying to figure that out, I think we're going to jump ahead now. Bill Holtby, are you with us? We're going to try you and see if you're able to ask your question. Go ahead, please, Bill.
Yeah, I hope I'm unmuted for you.
Yes, you are.
Okay, great. Thanks first of all, for all the work you guys are doing, the volunteers, firefighters, etc. So I think that comes from everyone. But my question was the same as the one you had previously, and then I've got a follow-up. The first one was the estimate, and I understand it's difficult to estimate. There's a billion things going on. Something that we're finding frustrating as evacuees is we're not getting sort of more precise information, and I don't think anybody's going to hold you to any specific dates, but are we talking 2 weeks, a month, 6 weeks, whatever? When's the soonest might we get in? And I guess the reason I'm sort of pushing on that is BC Hydro was interviewed yesterday by one of the Kamloops radio stations. They gave very specific information. 450 poles down, 200 have been replaced so far. X number of kilometers of wire have been done. So I think you guys are hearing that from Hydro, you're hearing it from Telus, you're hearing it from the school board, you're hearing it from highways. Can you share that with us so that we don't have to go to multiple sources to get that information? And when might we get back?
So I'll jump in here a little bit. So you're getting what you've heard from Hydro is more specific information than we're getting. We're getting the raw briefings from the crew leads that are out there. They're saying, they're giving kind of rough timelines. Certain areas are going to be 2 weeks. A week ago, he was saying that other areas could be a month without power, but it's very round numbers at this time. We don't have anything specific, unfortunately. I don't think we're as long as 2 weeks away in a lot of our order areas. I'm hoping that we are going to have people back sooner than that. But again, that's just a hope and a gut feeling that what we're working towards is getting some people back just as soon as we possibly can. And I would be surprised if it was out that far.
Okay, thank you, Bill. And I just want to remind Doug Andrew, who had his hand up, if he'd like to speak, we'll go to you next. We're getting questions that, I had a chance to chat with a resident this morning who was very vocal and pointed out that some people feel like they're not being treated as adults because of safety issues and issues that Tracy brought up. But this is not a matter of not trusting people or anything like that. There are genuine safety concerns that, although many people can probably handle it well, and whether there's 5-year-olds or people with walkers in or not, that's not the issue. The issue is that there are some very serious safety concerns. So if you just open the gates up and let everybody in, there's a challenge there, is there not? For not just the safety of those people, but the first responders?
Absolutely. So there's still active firefighting going on in these areas. And we've had the fire activity has dampened down quite a bit due to this rain. We're really thankful for that. But we're going into some drier times now too, where we can expect some increased fire behavior, and fire crews are going to be out there addressing that fire behavior again. So there's still active firefighting going on. There's still all these crews from all over BC that are all on the roads doing hydro poles. They're trying to take advantage of the times that the roads are closed to get as much work as they can done. And we've told them that they need to utilize this time wisely, because we can't hold back re-entry for longer, because the power poles aren't in. So people, there's quite a few people who are resilient, who have generators, who are willing to go in without power. And we're not going to let that stop us, but we're communicating with Hydro regularly to make sure that they know when we're going in. We've also heard from our water system operators that need time to get their systems up and going to make sure that there's clean drinking water, that sort of thing. So there's all of these things that need to be considered before we can allow re-entry. And some of them can be done in conjunction with re-entry, and some of them need to happen before re-entry. So we're looking to get people back as soon as we possibly can. But it needs to be done safely, and it needs to be done properly.
Okay, we're going to go to Doug, and then after that, we're going to go back to Mike McCulley for final thoughts from him before he jumps to another meeting. And I'm looking at the comments here on YouTube, so we're going to ask Mike and yourself to comment on some of the things we're hearing. Sure. But Doug Andrew, go ahead, please, with your question.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Great, thank you. I live in the Wolford Point, Dorian Bay area. And I know several people who travel regularly the forestry road that runs from the mill up into Agate Bay. And they say there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. I've lived in the area for 35 years. I've driven that road oodles of times. And when they tell me there's nothing wrong with that road and they're taking it daily, I don't understand why that cannot be opened up for the residents.
Yeah, you bet. I can speak to that, Doug. It's not so much the Agate Bay Road in as far as I know. I'm not sure what the condition of the Agate Bay Road is. It's where the Agate Bay Road dumps out onto the Adams Lake Road, the Forest Service Road. That Adams Lake Forest Service Road, there's some real concern about that road from BC Wildfire and from a geotechnical perspective. And they're feeling like it's a really unsafe route. We're evaluating that constantly. We're also looking at the Locum Bear Creek Road, and we've asked MOTI this morning to assess the Adams Lake FSR from Agate Bay down and the Locum Bear Creek Road in. Lower East Adams Lake in the Dorian Bay and Wolford Point area is an area that the wildfire risk is passed in, and we would really love to lift the order in there because it takes one less burden off of the Emergency Operations Center. And I know that residents want to get in there. The only issue with that one now is that all the accesses are cut off due to safety reasons. So we're asking every single day if those accesses can be opened up so we can allow people in and we can lift that order.
All right,
Thank you.
very much, Doug.
Who is making that decision as to when that road is safe?
So that's a decision that's made in conjunction. We have what's called coordination calls with emergency management and climate readiness. And so they're in attendance, BC Wildfire is in attendance, and the Forest Service is in attendance, and MOTI is in attendance. So those are regular coordination calls that we're having to see if those roads are open. We had one this morning, and we needed a little bit more information. So they're going back to gather it, and we're going to have another one this afternoon, hopefully, is the plan. So we're actively working on that area, and I would love to get that opened up for you guys just as soon as those accesses are ready.
Okay, Doug, we'll wrap it up there. We'll go to Tracy Lawrenson next, but Mike McCulley from BC Wildfire Service. Final thoughts on this wildfire and some of the challenges moving forward.
Yeah, thanks very much. I mean, I wish I could stay on longer and take as many questions as possible, but I just wanted to, reflect that we're still in some really significant drought conditions as described earlier. We did have a bit of rain. We saw the fire behavior decrease. That's great news, of course. It allows us to have really, really good firefighting days. We'll have a few of those, but because of the significance of the drought that we've been in, it does not take very long until we're right back into climbing indices, our buildup indexes, our drought codes, our fuel moisture codes. They are climbing every minute as we speak right now. The weather's going to warm up again. And so we have lots of work to do. We're keen to do it. We're glad to do it with the help of locals and the support. But I just want to remind everybody there's lots of work to go here yet. We're by no stretch out of the woods. I think the hazards that I've seen in there, I would echo Derek's sentiments. It's devastating. It's sad. My heart goes out to the community, and I just wish you all the best going forward. I hope you can all get home as soon as possible. And I agree. Everybody is working as hard as they can. There's no ulterior motive here. It's why we are here and what we do. And I appreciate the support from the time I've been here.
Thank you very much, Mike. We really appreciate it, and safe travels.
Thank you.
Mike McCulley with the BC Wildfire Service, and we're going to some more calls. I'll just remind Jen, operating behind the scenes here, if while we go through these calls, maybe you can bring the map up if you're able to, if there's a way to do that, and we'll just look at that map while we're hearing from people. But Tracy Lawrenson is standing by. She's been patiently waiting. Thank you for your patience, Tracy. Go ahead, please.
Yes. So just building on Doug's question, for those of you who don't know where the Adams Lake is, we're the top left corner there. And for 7 weeks, we've been on alert or order there. So you mentioned that we won't be off order until presumably the roads are fine, but why not boat access? Move us off alert so people can boat from Agate. Anglemont's not available by road, so you're barging to them. So why are we stuck on alert? Why not boat access? Why are we stuck on order? Pardon me. If we were moved to alert, we wouldn't have people stopped in boats.
Yeah. So as soon as the order is lifted, we don't have a mechanism for same boat access only or anything to that effect. Once the order is lifted, the order is lifted, and then the pressure starts to mount on the checkpoints and the security. The boat access, last I heard, the boat launch at the north end of Adams Lake was restricted. You may have more information on that, but we don't necessarily take into account boat access only when we're lifting orders. If there's access is safe, then the access is safe.
Then why is Anglemont on alert?
So Anglemont has road access out, or Anglemont has a road access out through Seymour Arm and the North Fork. It's just challenging, but it is in good shape and it's not threatened by wildfire.
So the same as the Forest Service Road to the north.
Your Forest Service Road?
Well, we've got access, as Doug just pointed out, through the Forest Service Road to the north. People are traveling that road every day.
Yeah, and that, so the issue
why
with
are
that
we
one,
still on order instead of alert like Engelmont? If we're not asking for a barge, we're not asking for, it's been 7 weeks since we were first put on alert and people have been out of that area. So 3 times as long as the others. And simply, I'll be candid, it feels like you just have forgotten about Adams because the energy's all moved to the North Shore. Like, when can we expect this to at least get boat access over there? Because 7 weeks is a very long time to be stuck on alert or order.
it sure is. And I completely sympathize with you, Tracy. I can assure you that nobody has forgotten about you. Like I said, we're meeting on your area more than any other area right now, because we know that the wildfire risk in Doreen Bay and Wolfer Point is such that we can justify moving it to alert, but the road access is not. And we're meeting regularly, daily with MOTI and forestry to see if we can't get you access. It is really important to us to get you guys back into your places. We know that it's been a long haul for you, and we've been here ever since July 12th when we were first putting orders and alerts on that area with you. And there's nothing we'd like more than to get you guys back into your places. You haven't been forgotten. We're meeting regularly, and I want you back in.
So how about piloting people in after 7 weeks, like you've been doing in other areas? Or, what is the plan to give people who evacuated July 20th when the alert came? Access, pending all of that.
And if that's what the determination is for the safety of the road, then we can do that. It was a hard shutdown for the safety in that area for that road. And if piloting was what we were doing, then that's something that we would consider in the Emergency Operations Center. But the message that we were getting was the road was just too unsafe. So and all they wanted on there was first responders, and we had to respect that. But we're asking every single day, Tracy, you're not forgotten about. We want to get you back home.
Okay, Tracy, I'm going to ask you to wrap it up there because we'd like to get as many questions in as we can. We're going to Brian next. Brian has been waiting patiently along with a lot of other people. And very quickly, there are comments in the YouTube chat about actual information. This is the information that's available. The type of information I think people will be looking for is once determinations are made that evacuation orders or alerts can be lifted, that information will be shared as soon as it's confirmed. And you'll find that through the regular channels. But in the meantime, if you're not getting the information you need and you have a question or a suggestion, don't hesitate to call the Emergency Operations Center. And the number, as you've probably heard many times, is 250-833-3350. 833-3350, because it may be specific to your property. Don't hesitate to call. Brian, you're up next. If you'd like to go ahead, please, and ask your question. Thanks for your patience. By the way.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, this a comment to start. Don't you have access to tax information for everybody that should have contacts?
Yeah, thanks, Brian. And we do have access to tax information, but we don't collect those contacts for those property owners. I don't know why we don't. It's probably a privacy issue, but not my world. And it's a little frustrating for me not to have that information, because we would have a phone call into everybody that's affected if we had that information. So I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to your question, but we don't have that information.
Okay, no worries. The other one is just regarding the bus. Are we going to be able to disembark the bus, or is it just going to be a drive around tour?
Yeah, so what I would like to do is have people be able to get off the bus if it's safe to do so. We'll have a firefighter out there that can assess the situation and make sure that it's safe to do so. We will have to ask people to limit the amount of time that they spend at their property, just because there'll be other people on the bus that will want to see their properties. But my sincere hope is that we're able to give people the opportunity to get out and have a chance to do what they need to do and grieve in their way.
With that question, part 2 on that, then, is there going to be multiple buses? Because like if 131 residents come to view their houses, that's going to take multiple days with one bus.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So right now we have 3 queued up and for this project. And if we need more, we have some kind of waiting in the wings. But yeah, I mean, the questions you're asking are all the questions that we're asking, and we're going way deeper into it than that, and it becomes logistically a bit overwhelming. But we have a team of about half a dozen people that's the only project they're going to be working on.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you very much. I want to bring in very quickly a member of the media because Barbara's been active at these briefings for quite a while and she has some questions. Just very quickly, Scott Elliott's pretty vocal here on YouTube and was suggesting that people are at home. There are many people, including myself, who are not at home with our families. I'm in a comfortable area, not like firefighters, but there are so many firefighters who are not spending time at home. They do. And some of them, as you know, have lost homes. So it's not a blanket statement to say that if you're on this side in this room or in this building that everything's great, because there's a lot of people who are not at home. And also the suggestion that it's about control. I've got to ask you about that. This is not about control. This is about danger and the best information that's available, and you have to make decisions based on that. It's easy, I think, to suggest things should be done a different way, but you're using the best information you have on the ground and from experts.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's certain obligations on the regional district. As soon as a situation like this happens, and as soon as an order is in place, and we're obligated to secure an area and make it safe for first responders. And believe me that the sooner we can take these off of order and get people back to their homes and working on their own recovery with our support, our lives become so much easier in the Emergency Operations Center and so much better in the Emergency Operations Center, because we can then just give people the supports they need to move on. And nobody wants to keep anybody in limbo. And I do not want to control this situation more than we have to. The board does not want us to control this situation more than we have to. And we're fulfilling our obligation to the community that's legislated, and there's some very strict parameters that we have to follow. So we're following those, but as soon as it's safe to do so, we're going to get people back home, and we're going to support them in their recovery.
Barbara Fairclough, hope I said your name right. Barbara, go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much. It's Barbara Fairclough with the South Shuswap Scoop. I'm just this question is for Derek. I'm just wondering if you can tell me if you've got any working dogs active both in the recovery and resiliency side or in the fire side of things.
Yeah, so it's not something we've talked a lot about, Barb, and we haven't talked about it a lot because of sensitivities. But we have had dogs work in the area searching for anybody who's lost their life. They're called cadaver dogs, and they've been utilized to see if anybody was in homes that we didn't know about, that may not have gotten the message. And I can tell you that it was a collective sigh of relief when we heard that the dog had no indicators. So incredibly happy about that. We've lost structures, we haven't lost lives. We've also used some dogs in the Emergency Operations Center to comfort people and to alleviate a little bit of stress. You know, there's nothing like sitting down and petting a dog when you've worked 15 hours and had, you know, just catastrophic news after catastrophic news after catastrophic news. So yeah, we've used dogs because we have a ton of dog lovers around here as we do out there.
Okay, thank you, Barbara.
Thank you. If I may, one follow-up question to Derek as well. This would be regarding the food bank. Have you, in the Emergency Support Center, have you heard from the Sorrento Food Bank at all yet?
You know what, Barbara, we may have, but it's we have somebody that's managing our donations. It hasn't come across my desk, but I know we've set up a makeshift food bank at the Lakeview Center and to support some of the residents out there. And I know we've been funneling some donations out there. I'm not sure if we've made direct contact with the Sorrento Food Bank.
Okay, that's great. I heard from someone earlier this week to say that they were open regularly on their Wednesday during their times. So I would just say, just check anybody that's needing their services to just check their website and contact them if they need it.
Thanks, Barb. That's a great plug, and they're a wonderful organization. And there's people that are going to need their services here going forward.
All right, thank you very much, Barbara. We'll go to Heather in just a moment. I'm going to ask Jen if she can bring the regular screen back now, and as we continue to answer some of these questions. Quick note that there is a list available for evacuees. You'll get that from the Emergency Support Services Reception Center, and it's a list of supplies and resources. So information links, but also where you can get some of the supplies that you need. Pet food, for example, and some other supplies are available from a variety of different organizations. So if you are in need, contact the Emergency Support Services Reception Center, and you can get that information. And in case you missed it earlier, that reception center is now moved. It's at Fairfield Inn and Suites in Salmon Arm at 790 16th Street Northeast. Another call now. Heather, go ahead, please. Hi, Heather. We'll just have to remind you to unmute yourself. Looks like you are. Go ahead, please.
I'm wondering, for those of us who have lost property, what happens with, like, do we come in and clean it up, or how does that work?
Yeah. Thanks, Heather. And I'm very sorry to hear that you've lost your property. It depends, first and foremost, if you're insured. If you're insured, the process becomes a little easier, and you call your insurance company and they'll start lining up contractors for you, and you can be as involved or not involved in that process as you'd like, as far as I know. If for those people that are uninsured, we can help with those types of questions through the Resiliency Center. We do work with some non-governmental organizations that provide supports to people to go in and help clean up, and we can connect you with those organizations. So it's not a straight answer, but I guess the answer is it depends. And but you're not on your own. We're here to support, and there is some supports in place to help you with that very issue.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
All right. We'll go to Lindsay Holmes next in just a moment. Reoccurring topic here for the chat on YouTube is about why evacuation orders remain in place and how soon any of that will change. Are you anticipating over the weekend that things could change in some areas? Is that the hope? Is that something you can comment on?
Yeah, absolutely. So we wait for BC Wildfire to tell us if the wildfire risk has passed. The only place that they've told us that the wildfire risk has passed is in the Doreen Bay, Wolford Point, that lower East Adams Lake area. And of course, we've discussed the access issues. So once the wildfire risk is passed and we're informed of that from BC Wildfire, then we assess the remaining risks. And as soon as it's safe to do so, we downgrade, usually from an order to an alert, if there's active wildfire in the area. And then people are allowed to re-enter the area and start the recovery process.
It's important to note it's not passing the buck. BC Wildfire Service, they're the experts on the wildfire.
Oh,
the
yeah.
local government can make a decision, but taking direction from the experts is basically how the process is set up.
Absolutely. So, and they're not the only experts that we take advice from either, right? Like, we don't know what safe looks like out there. And we have to lean on BC Wildfire. We have to lean on MOTI. We have to lean on BC Hydro. We have to lean on Ministry of Environment to tell us, okay, this area is okay if you do X, Y, and Z. And then we try and get X, Y, and Z done, and so that the area is safe so we can lift the alert. So there's no higher priority other than maybe getting people who've lost their homes in to see it before we lift the order. But as soon as that's done, we want to be lifting these orders and getting people home.
Okay, we are over time. What we were planning was an hour, but of course we'll keep going as long as we can here with some more questions. I want to ask you, Derek, about Calista and the school, but Lindsay's been waiting patiently. Lindsay, go ahead with your question, please.
Hi there. Yeah, I actually have two questions. The first one is about what is going to happen with the people that did lose their homes, and if you guys have any plans on how you're going to keep them in our community. I don't think it's a secret that the rental market out on the North Shuswap is basically non-existent, and a lot of that has to do with all of the short-term rentals we have out there. So I was wondering if you guys had talked at all about either incentivizing short-term rentals to turn back into long-term rentals, or to discourage people from being short-term rentals, so we're not only able to house all the people that have lost their properties, but also bring more people into the community in the long term. The second question I have is about ESS. A lot of people are having trouble accessing ESS supports because they either left before the evacuation while they were still on alert for whatever reason, and they didn't register at an evacuation place. And so now they're finding a lot of difficulty accessing any sort of support at all if they aren't able to make it back into an evacuation center. Other people like me, for instance, I evacuated to Kamloops, and Kamloops ESS doesn't actually have a contact number. And when I have called the CSRD or called evacuation salmon arm, I've basically been hitting brick walls, and I've had to go through calls over and over and over again to 18 different agencies in order to get access to the supports that I need. And I do know there's people that have had access to no support at all because they weren't able to register at an evacuation center. So I was just wondering if you guys have any insight into either of those questions.
Sure. I'm really sorry you're having trouble with that, Lindsay. Can I ask which area you live in?
I live in Scotch Creek, but the initial evacuation on the alertable, it did say to head to Kamloops, so that's where I went. And when we were still on alert, it was suggested that we find our own housing because there was no hotels in Kamloops. So I did do that. And for me in particular, it took a week for ESS to even get back to me after I had registered both online and in person. And that was a whole week of support lost because you guys don't backdate.
Okay. So I'm not sure about the nuances of the backdating. I'm a little surprised by that. But certainly the reception center in Kamloops should be able to help. The reception center in Salmon Arm will definitely be able to help. And we have been on coordination calls with that reception center in Kamloops. They've been very supportive of our evacuees. I would suggest that if you're having these sorts of troubles, that you can call into our reception center, and our reception center manager is very, very experienced ESS person, and she will do everything she can to help you out. And once again, I'm sorry that you're going through this. You shouldn't have to navigate a huge bureaucracy when you're also navigating disaster in your area. So I'll give you the number 250-833-3360. It's 833-3360 for our ESS supports, and I know that they can help you out. And if not, call into the Emergency Operations Center, and I'll see if I can.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Derek. And on the issue of housing, that really is
the first question.
a different challenge altogether.
Oh my goodness. So yes, Lindsay, this is something we've talked about in the EOC. We haven't been able to dive into it because, of course, we've been so on our back foot responding to this whole emergency. But it has been brought up as an issue. BC Housing is being invited into the Resiliency Center to help us address some of these issues. As you know, they're complex. There's probably no easy answers, but we're engaging with BC Housing in order to address some of those questions. And maybe the answer is setting some sort of encouragement for people to move from short-term rental situations into medium or long-term rentals in some of their housing. So,
okay, we are going to Robin in just a moment, and I'll just let you know we're going to wrap up at 1:30. At that point, it's We've had an hour and a half, and certainly a reminder that the phone number is always there if you need specific questions specific to you. We've had some people asking about the current wildfire map. The one that is available is from BC Wildfire. You can go to their website at BCWildfire.ca. That is the one that is available publicly and has the latest data and information on it. Let's go to Robin Ruddick for a question to the panel. Robin, go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon. Earlier, you mentioned environmental issues that might play into the decision to either rescind an evacuation order, an evacuation alert. What sort of environmental issues are you referring to?
Yeah, so the answer is I'm not sure, because after this fire, all these toxins have been burnt down. What's left there? So that's a conversation we need to have with the Ministry of Environment to say, is this safe? Should we be concerned about things? And their questions are kind of open-ended questions to the Ministry of Environment. Are we thinking about the right things to make sure that we're getting this right for people? So that's kind of the discussion that we're having in the EOC, because we're not the environmental scientists that need to make these recommendations to us. So we're reaching out to them to get their thoughts on things.
Okay, thank you, Robin. Let's keep going and get as many questions in as we can. Jim Cooperman is next up. Jim has a question on through Zoom, and go ahead, Jim.
There, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Jim.
Okay, thank you for this opportunity. Most people in the North Shuswap are very grateful to those who remained behind, including our Regional District Director, Jay Simpson, to fight fires and deal with the issues in our community. Many homes and properties were saved thanks to their brave actions. And yet, also, many residents were not happy with the fact that these people could not drive on roads, could not get supplies. I understand that you are working under the regulations set up by the province, but do you think there is a need to revisit these regulations so that this problem doesn't occur in the future, knowing that this isn't the first time this problem has happened?
Jim, thank you very much. And I think that's an important point. The Emergency Program Act is under review right now, and a new version should be coming out soon. It's going to have to be fluid with changes like this, with situations we've seen with more intense wildfires and some of the issues that have come up during this event.
It's an incredibly interesting question. Thanks, Jim. So it's a question that we've been discussing with BC Wildfire and some of the community leaders that have elected to stay behind. The issue becomes one of safety of first responders and making sure that everybody is swimming in the same direction. And there was some frustration in the beginning because some of the community firefighters were the community civilian firefighters rather than the Scotch Creek, Lee Creek Fire Department or Sliss or Angamont is what I'm talking about. We're attacking different objectives than BC Wildfire. And what Wildfire has come in and said is, all right, well, let's start working together so that we're all working in the same direction and getting the right, attacking the right objectives and doing that in a safe way. So BC Wildfire has come in and they've set up this system where they can regularize some of these community volunteers that want to help and work them into the safety systems, as well as get everybody on the same page with what objectives need to be addressed. And long term, the discussions that we've been having with BC Wildfire is, and this is really broad strokes, high level, but how do we involve the local fire departments in areas, train up people who may want to stay and defend during a wildfire event so that they're already trained, they can be conscripted by BC Wildfire, for lack of a better term, and brought into their systems, get a paycheck, and work together to address these situations. So the situation in North Shuswap has kind of opened up all those questions, and those discussions are being had. And I think there's an opportunity for change here.
Okay, Jim, I'm going to wrap it up there. We have Sean Cobro on the line as well. Sean is very well known firefighter in the area. Sean, are you with us?
On the other hand, why have they not learned from
We're going to ask Sean if he can join us now. Let's see if we can find Sean. And the reason I want to bring Sean in is because Sean's been on the ground. He's been out there from the start. He's talked to a lot of firefighters, talked to a lot of residents, knows a lot of people, of course, who are in the area and affected by this. And I'd really like to, if you don't mind,
not at all,
get Sean's perspective. Sean, are you on the line with us? Are you able to unmute yourself?
Yes, I'm here.
Sean, you know, these are challenging times when people disagree with each other on how things are done, whether it's how the fire has been fought or when people should be allowed back into their homes. What are you hearing and what can you share on that topic?
Well, I can say that when the fires were coming through, it was a very dynamic situation. It was some of the most intense fire behavior we've seen. I think watching the residents, pull together and the way that they were able to get people out, the way that they were able to protect some of their properties, and that includes our volunteer fire departments that are out there. It was quite incredible. I think it's a very emotional time out there. As far as during orders and evacuations, as has been mentioned, we need to control the area specifically for the safety of our first responders. And I think one of the things that sometimes gets overlooked in the protection of property is that life safety is the #1 priority. Once we have the ability to move around without worrying about the number of vehicles on the road, maybe people that were in areas in some cases where they shouldn't have been, and we're able to kind of focus on the job at hand, I think everything started working together much better. We've been receiving tremendous support from the community, from the local fire department, for the local fire departments as well. Like I said, there's no quick answer. I think a lot of people did, have been doing amazing work in that community, and we certainly, support the efforts that they've been doing. Our #1 priority has always been life safety, and again, clearing the path so that these people who are doing the good work out there, our volunteer fire department members, the 13 local fire departments, are able to get in there and do the good work and go back home to their families at the end of the day.
John, thank you very much. I appreciate you joining us. All right, we're going to bring a few more people in. We've got Wade Haley standing by. Wade, go ahead, please.
Good afternoon. Hey, thanks for the time. Just a question on the timeline again. You referenced earlier about I have a property in Scotch Creek, and fortunately our property was not lost. But you mentioned earlier about getting those who lost their homes into the area to assess. My question is, you mentioned the 2-week timeline. Again, in a perfect world, 2 weeks. Is 2 weeks realistic before the order would be lifted for those owners and those other owners in Scotch Creek?
Just to be clear, the question that I was answering before was, is it going to be 2 weeks? Is it going to be 4 weeks? Is it going to be 6 weeks before we get in? And for some areas, getting into the area within 2 weeks is going to be realistic. For other areas, it's going to be much longer. For some of those burnt out areas, there's other safety concerns that we're going to have to address, and we're expecting that some of the most affected areas will be on order for longer than that. But getting people back to the unaffected areas is a priority, and we don't want to keep people out of the affected areas longer than we absolutely need to. It is a priority for us to get people back in the area and for them to start their recovery process. And the sooner we can do that, the sooner they can heal as individuals, and the sooner the community can heal as a group. And that's critically important to us in the Emergency Operations Center right now. We're having a lot of discussion about what our values are, and community is a top value for us in this response. And so we don't want anybody to be out longer than they have to. Just know that when we're making those decisions, We're consulting with the board and the policy group. Everybody is aligned. Nobody wants people out longer than they have to be. So I can't give you a tight timeline because it's just so dynamic. We don't have those answers, but we're going to do it as soon as we can.
All right, thank you, Wade. I'm going to wrap you up there and try and get these last couple of calls in. But again, monitoring these comments on YouTube and people looking for specific information. The information that's available right now has been shared in this meeting. There is no current timeline for when these evacuation orders will be lifted, when it's safe to go in there. But we could leave this meeting and find that multiple situations have changed. Like, it is dynamic, and that.
Oh yeah.
So if there's information to share, it'll be shared, and it'll be shared through the regular channels and through another one of these briefings, but on the website and alertable if it's something serious. Is there anything you can add to that?
No, I mean, it's so dynamic right now, and we're so dependent on getting those answers back from the professionals in the know and the qualified professionals out there. We have to assess slope stability after burns, and we have to get geotechnical engineers. We're likely not going to hold up getting people back while we make those assessments, but there's a lot of moving parts to this recovery, and we're committed to working through them as quickly as we possibly can, but we do have to get it right. So I'm sorry I don't have more concrete information, but we're just too early in the recovery process to have that concrete information. But I do want to reiterate that our philosophy when dealing with this is that we get people into their homes just as soon as we possibly can.
Celista School, do you have any information on that?
I don't. I know that some of our plans group has been working and our operational staff have been working with the school district to enact their emergency plan. They're going to be solely responsible for their work in the school area, making decisions on when kids can go back to school in North Shuswap, or if they have to temporarily go somewhere else, where that's going to be. So I would ask people with those questions about schools to go directly to SD 83 and ask their questions to them.
Okay, Shelley's up next. People are asking for estimates, and that's always a challenge because if you say we're going to estimate that something will open tomorrow and it doesn't happen, that can cause confusion as well. The road to Engelmont, for example, is there any timeline on when that might open?
No, but like I said, we're working really diligently. If our lives would be so much easier if that Skwlāx Engelmont road was open and we didn't have to barge supplies across. It is a question we are asking every single day, and we want that road open as bad or more than you do. So,
and I'm going to clarify, you said our lives will be easier. You meant because then the people who are impacted won't be so challenged by what's going on, and that is the goal of what's going on. And again,
we can support them so much easier.
Yeah, I come into this from looking at an EOC operations center as people working as hard as they can to provide as much information and to get people home as soon as they can, and that has never been in doubt. And you know, I don't want to overstate the fact, but the goal is to help people with information, but more than that, just get them home. And if it's dangerous to do so, that's not a good move. Never is.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, Shelley Lindsay standing by. Shelley, thanks again for your patience. We'll try and get a couple more calls in before we wrap it up. Go ahead, please. Hi, Shelley. We'll just get you to unmute yourself if you can, please. And there we go.
Hello.
Hi, Shelley. Yes, we can.
Yes, thank you. Why isn't Hydro a part of this meeting? They do have communication managers as well. That's my question. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Hydro gives us a briefing every day, and I can tell you that they're working as hard as they possibly can on this project. This meeting was for the regional district to communicate with the residents, and certainly Hydro is willing to answer questions that people have. Hydro has a lot of things to be proud of right now because they are throwing everything they have at this problem. I'm seeing tired and worn Hydro workers coming in, giving us briefings, and we couldn't be happier with the work that they're doing out there.
But the communication we're getting is weeks. Well, we're 2 weeks in this already, so we're past the weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would suggest reaching out directly to Hydro to get information on your specific area. And what Hydro told us in the beginning was it's going to be weeks before we can tell you an estimate. And because the damage was just that extensive. But if you reach out to Hydro directly, they may have a better answer for you. But my suspicion is that they're going to say, we'll know more once this line is up and running, and we don't expect that line to be up and running until such and such a time. So right now they're trying to get that main line going, and they don't have a real good indication of time for some of the spurs to give a sense of time on those. So they're still very much dealing with loose timelines themselves.
Okay, thank you very much, Shelley. I'm going to wrap it up there and ask Derek if you can talk about boating restrictions. A lot of questions about that. Is there any information you can share on that? I know people want to winterize their cabins, they want to get their boats out of the water, that type of thing. Is there any information?
An order area is an order area, whether it's boat accessed or whether it's by car. So we would ask people much like what Skwlāx to Secwepemcu asked, please be patient. I can't tell you enough how much we want to get you back in. Our philosophy in the EOC is to get you back as soon as we possibly can. And I know that everybody wants to get in there and have access, deal with the refrigerators, deal with their freezers, get their cabins winterized, and we're going to get you back in there as soon as we possibly can.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to bring in one more question, and then we are going to wrap this session up. And I'll remind you that, again, if you have specific questions specific to your property, you can phone the Emergency Operations Center at any time and ask those questions. And certainly someone will get back to you with any information that is available. Future briefings will be planned as the days and weeks go on. And again, reminder to follow official channels for the latest information. When it's confirmed, it will be posted on the web and social media channels. I appreciate for people who are not connected to technology, that can be challenging. So the efforts over the next weeks and months will be to get people into those communities to have those meetings and have those conversations. Final thoughts then to Martin Stanners. Martin, if you can go ahead with your question, please. And thank you for your patience, by the way.
Oh, well, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
It's just an observation. There's currently a helicopter bucketing hotspots on the Adams Lake Forestry Road. So I didn't know if anybody knew that.
No, I didn't. I think we lost Mike to this other meeting in the TNRD, but I'm not surprised. There's so many heads to this fire, and they're trying everything they can with this cooler weather, this wetter weather, to get ahead of it. So that sounds like I'm really happy actually that they're out there and they're making that happen. I know earlier I was in the community earlier this morning, and they were bucketing in the Meadow Creek area of Celista as well. There were some hot spots out there that they were trying to get ahead of. So.
Okay, thank you very much. And I see we have a question from Castanet, but I'm going to ask them to just call the media line, the number that you're using directly to get that information. I'm going to ask Tracy if you can give us a couple of final thoughts, and then over to you, Derek, and then we'll wrap it up.
Sure. So as Eric pointed out, we are trying to get information out to people as quickly as we can. There is always a balancing act. There's an avalanche of information that's coming through the EOC, and that information has to be processed and vetted, and then goes out. So we are working very hard, long hours, to try to make sure we get information to you as timely as possible. Those are through our main channels, our website, www.csrd.bc.ca, and also our social media platforms. We have Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can follow all of those. And I would highly recommend, if you haven't already, to sign up for our alertable mass notification program. We'll have information coming about orders and alerts. Possible downgrades will be coming through that system.
Okay, thank you so much, Tracy. And there was a question again about boats. Restrictions for boats are in reference to an order. If there's an order in place and it covers a geographic region, that would include the water.
That's right. Yeah, certainly boats can access the Angelmont area and St. Ives area, Seymour Arm. Those areas aren't on order. So boat traffic is welcome in those areas. We would just ask, of course, if there's any bucketing going on or any skimmer groups, that you just stay off the water and stay out of the way. But certainly it's open in those particular areas, but would be closed in Magna Bay, Celista, and Scotch Creek and Lee Creek.
Derek, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to go back to the beginning and let people know that there's an incredible number of people that have been pulled out of their regular jobs to either volunteer, to fight fire, to work in the EOC, and all of these people are going above and beyond to make this emergency and recovery go as smoothly as possible. In some instances, that's just not possible, but we are talking actively about our values, and we use those values to help us make really, really tough decisions. And once again, those values are community, teamwork, professionalism, integrity, safety, and leadership. So those are what we use as our decision-making tools.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Tracy, as well. All right, we're going to wrap it up there. And I do appreciate your patience. I know it's very difficult. I've been in many emergency operations centers where these dynamic situations, as we call them, are simply just emergencies that have to be dealt with by humans. If you've lost your home, if your home has been impacted, partially impacted, if you're missing work, all the challenges that have come along with this wildfire, please do know that the people who are in this building and out in the field, whether they are with the Columbia Shuswap Regional District or contractors or partner agencies or Indigenous communities, BC Wildfire Service, the people who are working are dealing with this because they're trying to help people. They're not trying to hide information. They just want to make this situation become better for everyone involved. So appreciate your patience. Remind you about the website for the latest information, CSRD.bc.ca. And again, the phone number 833-3350. We'll leave it there. Thank you again for joining us. We appreciate your time.